Thank you, Professor Swenden, for your extremely valuable insights that deepen our practical understanding of the role of the federal system in times of crisis. Our next speaker is Dr. Elizabeth Alber, Senior Researcher at the Institute for Comparative Federalism at Eurac Research in Bolzano, Italy. She has taught and widely published on comparative federalism, democracy, regionalism, intergovernmental relations, and policymaking in federal and regional states, and has an impressive record as a research group leader at Eurac Institute of Comparative Politics, Bolzano. Dr. Alber, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also from my side, first and foremost to Chanchal, who actually put all this together with all the team here, and to all the sponsors. I will not name and list them again. I also express my gratitude for being here and for being able to having this learning platform. It's obviously difficult now after two introductions that actually already tabled a lot of the issues to add something new or to complement something. What I will do in a few minutes is basically to zoom a bit in, so to get further into a bit more details and continue where also Wilfried actually finished, and retake the pandemic, the corona pandemic, and just shed some light on some issues that, in my and in our opinion, when we discussed the call for papers and the convener's note, were very important. So first of all, obviously the pandemic as the worldwide crisis we are living in now, at least one, has forced us to look at federalism again. So in many countries, actually, federalism got again on the agenda. I remember when I was talking to scholars from Switzerland, they said like federalism was never so prominent as it is now, because with the pandemic, federalism got again on the agenda. It is a burning glass for the strengths and for the weaknesses of all the federal system, of all the multi-tier systems. So there has been, obviously, if one attempts to compare the responses different federal systems gave to the pandemic, there has been what can be called kind of a first phase, where definitely centralization, concentration of powers was ongoing, was immediately visible. Then, obviously, responses were differentiated, but if one can summarize, we can say that in the second and in the third phase, asymmetries came again to the fore, if one goes more into detail. And this means that again, the importance of constituent units, of subnational units, of states, of provinces, but also of the local level, actually was really, really important. And here we will hear different papers, and there has been already done some research on this. So what does the pandemic, let's say, give us as lessons what we can discuss in this conference? First, it highlights the need for connections between policy fields. Wilfried was already also alluding to it. It highlights the need that we ask ourselves, what are the implications for the different policy fields? And how are the different civil servants, administrations, political elites, whatever it is, connected across the different policy fields? Second, it reminds us about, as I already said, the role of subnational units, of constituent units, of local governments, of municipalities. Third, it reminds us of the very, very great diversity of intergovernmental relations and its many dimensions across all the federal systems in the world. And it does remind us about the need to balance all the different IGRs, all the different communication channels to get better in having transparent policymaking, in accountable policymaking. It reminds us about the fact that federalism is, yes, about the self-rule, but it is also about the shared rule. And very often when the shared rule part is underestimated, then it is difficult to approach crises, then it is difficult to build up a more resilient society. Another word we now perfectly know what it means. And therefore, it is actually all about also defining the term shared rule and redefining the term participation. Participation in decision making, as Chanchal was saying it in the opening, not just about the classical actors in a federal system, but also about any stakeholder we can think of, about renewing decision-making processes to make actually societies more resilient, not only to the pandemic, which is an immediate crisis, but also to crises which we can define incremental, such as the climate change crisis. And we should not forget that shared rule is especially important also for incremental crises. Otherwise, it will then again be an immediate crisis, and that's definitely more difficult to handle. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Alber, for your very interesting presentation about the theme of the conference, specifically highlighting the subnational democratic innovations in times of crisis.